Greetings. Happy Thanksgiving every day. Happy Thanksgiving
Yes.
every day, man. We're gonna be fat if it's every day. But happy Thanksgiving, and as promised, coming to you live at noon today with Yoga Dude. And what I'm starting to do, I hope you've been enjoying it. Started with Mike Mumola, and then had Todd Lewis on yesterday, and then was fortunate enough to have Islo join us. And today we have a double header. We have yoga at noon, and Max is going to come on at 2 o'clock. And we're just going to continue to have community members who are adding value to Epic Cash come on and tell us a little bit about themselves, their backstories, their interest in Epic Cash, and kind of give us a little bit of for me it would be Todd Radamus, a little vision into the future, right? What do you think's around the corner? And today we have Yoga on, and you all have heard Yoga a lot because he's on Epic Cash Fridays. But other than a very lengthy 3-hour video that we had a long time ago, it's been a while since we have unpacked who is this Yoga Dude, and that's A. And I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday who was just blown away. He's like, he was referencing Todd Lewis, he was referencing Mike Momola, Max, Yoga, me, and just saying, can't believe the caliber of people who are in this project. A lot of people who are savvy business people, not necessarily, not dumb by any means. Why are they all into Epic Cash? So today we're going to find out why Yoga Dude is. And just Yoga, welcome to the show. Happy Thanksgiving. I know you don't have a turkey in the oven. Why don't you tell everyone what you do have in the oven?
I'm a steak guy and not an oven guy. I'm a grill guy, so I'm going to be
Perfect.
grilling some red meat. America, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the U.S.
You bet.
And yeah. So let's just jump in,
Yeah,
jump
let's
right
do
in.
it.
For those of you who couldn't, by the way, I'm humbled and really surprised that a lot of people sat through the 3 hour of me and Uncle. I mean, there should be
You
some kind
got
of like
a lot of great
achievement
comments.
thing. Yeah, yeah. It's got to be some kind of medal or something that people should get for that. But so I'll just come back to this, a little bit about my background, because a lot of people are really curious. They're like, well, not personally about me, but like, who the hell's behind Epic Cash? Like, who is in the
Yeah.
project? And we are fortunate. We have a very eclectic, very brilliant bunch of people, and me, um, in
No.
the project, and we have technical depth, we have financial depth, we have marketing depth, we have business development depth, we have human depth, people, the EQ, as Uncle puts it, and we're people's people, but at the same time, our tech is really solid, our team is really solid, and as Mike Momola, labeled off the 3 T's, the timing is good. So
Yeah,
time
that
and
was
tech
great.
are really dynamite. So my background is originally I was born in Estonia during Soviet Union era, and immigrated to the U.S. So that kind of, during my formative years, that kind of shaped a little bit of my political views, and
I bet.
why I'm not a huge fan of socialism and communism, because I've been there, sucked, left.
Wow.
So get the T-shirt. It
Yeah.
sucks. So came to the US, basically grew up here in California, in Silicon Valley, kind of came up in the 80s, with all the high tech stuff happening. Was fortunate enough to, sit at the table with Steve Jobs and, some of the other interesting folks of that era. Background is programmer. I got into it early on because I thought it was like science fiction embodied, like stuff that I was reading, like Stanislav Lem and Asimov, and all these science fiction greats. I was reading them, and in Soviet Union at the time, there was like 3 computers, I think, in the entire my city, and they were at the universities. So coming to the US, the idea that you could actually just have a PC and do stuff with it, there's a concept of personal computer, was really mind-blowing. I had a friend whose dad worked for IBM for 17 years back from their mainframe days, and he had not one but two IBM PCs at home. And I thought, this is like somebody who has like a garage packed with Rolls Royces. Okay.
Yeah.
So I worked my ass off, did a lot of gardening, washed a lot of cars, bought my own computer, when I was like 14. Got a Commodore 64, which was the cheapest thing you could get. Got into programming, programming video games, programmed some hacking software early on, back when it was fun and easy and didn't require too much brain power. Back when there was this thing called ARPANET. This was sort of what internet spun off from. Anyway, and then distributed computing came about in the form of SETI, the idea of the search for extraterrestrial life and intelligence and stuff like that. And people were aggregating these computers to process massive amount of data. It was distributed between all these computers, and I thought, wow, this is kind of a cool idea. Like, your computer is becoming part of something greater,
Right.
So that really appealed to me. In the meantime, my educational background, again, coder, and then I kind of switched gears. I realized that I don't want to spend all my life in front of a monitor programming. I like people too much. So I jumped into sales and marketing and business development. So my background when I started with Epic, I was a director of business development. My director of business development, product development, branding and development, marketing, kind of the whole enchilada of identifying demand in the market, creating products to fill that demand, creating awareness for that product, building a brand, spinning up a retail brand, handling all the nitty-gritty of the marketing expansion, et cetera, et cetera. So just picking things up and then scaling them massively. And I've done this in the US, I've done this with European countries, I've done this with Asian countries. Last 3-4 years, I worked for a Taiwanese company that had global presence. So I have some experience with branding and product development.
Well, you have a lot. Can you tell us about, because you headed up marketing, I believe, was it for Fry's or?
I was Fry's Electronics. I was head of Apple and networking group.
Right.
So I was handling all the Apple stuff, and all back when networking was just kind of beginning to
be adopted,
take place, and Windows 95 came out, and yes, I'm that old, folks. But yeah, and actually, and before that, I was very close with Apple. I worked for a first Apple authorized dealer in Silicon Valley, Computer Addict, and that's how I met Steve Jobs. But ironically, Steve at the time was with Next. That was when he was kicked out of Apple before Apple begged him back in. So we actually got to negotiate. I actually got to sit with Steve several times and negotiate with him about boring retail pricing and marketing funds and stuff.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So then from that, I liked finance. I always liked, I was always very independently minded, when it came to finance, because again, I came from Soviet Union, where there's a severe government overreach into every aspect of one's life. And I always had that kind of a streak, that in US you get labeled, conservative or Republican or whatever, but I don't really subscribe to labels, because I'm very much into personal freedoms, and I'm pretty relaxed about what people do on their own time with themselves, so I don't really care. So I don't really necessarily fit that particular branding mold. But again, that libertarian mindset, that kind of a freedom-minded mindset, was one of the things that my foundation is built on. So when crypto came around with Bitcoin, I heard about it first 2009, 2010, and it didn't click at first, and then like around 2010, 2011, I got into it because a couple of friends of mine started mining it, and I was hardware geek, so I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. I got a rig, I get a gaming rig, which is, by the way, today, Epic gaming rigs, right? Seems like a really natural fit. Back then, it was like slightly leap of faith.
Right.
And, so I started mining Bitcoin in 11, and you could still find your own block, and it was still kind of very, early on in the game, and people were really humble. And the thing that appealed to me was, the Satoshi's vision of this person-to-person payment system, that was not encumbered, and it was not owned by the financial institutions, and it was not owned by the governments, right, today. And it was pure. The idea was that, people could send payments anonymously and trustlessly without involving financial institutions. And that's what we believed before we realized that that's not entirely true, that Bitcoin was trackable, that all the stuff came out over time. And then Monero came out with sort of the panacea, the solution to all the problems, right? With private, we got this, we got that, and that was cool. So I jumped off Bitcoin into Monero, and it was a good community initially. It was a little bit of kind of a hacker, chip on the shoulder kind of thing. Like if you don't know how to, if you don't know DOS, if you don't know CLI commands, you're a noob, and people, instead of holding your hand, they would tell you to go hit the manuals. Okay, RTFM.
Tough love.
You read the effing manuals, which wasn't really for everybody. And it was ironic because at the same time, the community was kind of whining that they weren't getting this mass adoption, that they weren't getting embraced by the mainstream. And it's like anytime some mainstream person would come in and go like, hey, what is this crypto thing? And they would go like, dude, screw off, noob, like go hit the books. And then like, God, where are all the people? So, go figure, right? So that was kind of the off-putting thing. And to me, I was already developed professional of marketing persuasion, and to me that seemed kind of foreign. And I tried here and there, but the vast sentiment was that people had to kind of earn their their Monero. They had to like become this part of the machine, and it wasn't for the filthy casuals. So which is really off-putting. I think that's the thing. That's why Monero, made it to number 8, and now it's on like 45 or 48. You just can't spend so much energy pissing people off and then wonder how come people are not coming to you.
Right.
And at some point, it also turned angry. It turned a little extreme. It turned a little, dark. And I think that's kind of
very divided now.
Well, yeah, and the thing, there's no culture per se. I mean, the culture is of hostility. That's of what's left, and that's really sad because that really wasn't representative of the early years of Monero.
Okay,
it was like people on a journey trying to kind of explore, and now it's like a bunch of pissed off people trying to like go, you got to use Monero. If you don't use Monero, you suck. It's not really marketing. It's not really people friendly. You just can't be a dick in marketing. Pardon my French. So. Epic came around in 19. Max Freeman did a drive-by on Monero forums, and I don't know if his account got banned or what, but it was up there long enough, that I noticed, and I jumped off. I was looking. I wasn't really looking for any new projects, and but then I saw something that was really open, really friendly, really egalitarian, really just with a really embracing friendly community, like right from the beginning. So many people helped me get started and get on onboarded, people that were there from beta. I mean, I'm not like from the original beta team. I came in right about when Epic went mainnet, and it was just awesome. It was eye-opening. It was tight. I looked at Mimblewimble. I heard about Mimblewimble before Epic with Grin, and when I looked at it, I thought the tech was interesting, but I really hated the monetary, the infinite inflation. The geyser that spews forth 86,000 coins every day, with no breaks. I mean, I didn't see a value in that. So I thought, well, it's kind of an interesting exercise, but I don't see the point. Anyway, so I can't hear you, Uncle.
That would have been for, I'm sorry, that would have been for the Mimblewimble coin itself?
Yeah. Well, it was for specifically, so Grin itself was this infinite, it was this infinite inflation thing. Mimblewimble coin is a whole separate bag of worms that's a little weird and dark. But no, but Epic itself, at least to me, it epitomized sort of the state of the art of crypto. Like I thought
I like that.
And it's hard to improve on minimalism. It's easy to improve when something is cumbersome. You can always say like, well, we can take this away, to make it better, and then we can add something, but that makes it more cumbersome. What I like about Mimblewimble, and what I think is sort of the future proofing of it, if you will, is its simplicity is hard to improve because there's this designer, there's a company called Brown back in the old days. It's a German company. They did a lot of designy things, and toasters and coffee makers and stuff like that. German company. And there's a designer there called Dieter Rams, and his whole ethos was less but better. It was kind of a minimalistic approach to design, and I really like that in Epic. What I saw, and at the time, I also was aware, Grin community was saying oh, this is kind of a lazy fork, and I thought that was actually kind of a lazy trolling, because anybody looking at Epic would see that it's not a lazy fork. It's actually a very elegant and ballsy improvement on the original, because we didn't just change the emission curve and cap it at Bitcoin's emission curve at 21 million, but what we did is we went with three algos. We went with three mining algorithms. Okay. And what's ballsy about that is RandomX, Monero community was paralyzed with indecision, because right about that time we discovered that there's all these ASIC guys, that were jacking up the difficulty, that Monero was, had this whole dark army of ASIC miners that was completely making our GPU miners irrelevant.
Wow.
And Monero community was in the process of evaluating move to RandomX, which is CPU, which is much harder to emulate with ASICs, because it requires more memory and it's more CPU optimized mining rather than GPU. And what I thought was ballsy was that RandomX pretty much just got ratified, if you will, just kind of went through all these critical reviews, peer reviews for security and efficiency and everything else. And Epic implemented this hot off the press tech 1 month before Monero
did. Nice.
Okay. And even before that, because it was running beta, it was running, on testnet before that, right? But the idea to me was wow, this is hot tech that's subsuming other hot tech into it. If you just think about that, okay? Because the problem with Bitcoin is it's stuck in the old days. It cannot fundamentally change on layer 1.
Right.
Okay. And layer 2, Todd was very kind to it, but I think layer 2 is really just, look, you're putting lipstick on a pig. Okay. It's really, you have a very big diminishing return when you're switching to layer 2. But doing things on layer 1 so elegantly that you take the best of what Mimblewimble has to offer, but then you pair it up with multi-algo mining. So if you have a video card, you can mine Epic. If you have a processor, you can mine Epic. So if you have a business laptop, okay, and this is again 2 years ago, before all the halvings and everything, but let's say you have a business laptop which typically has a really robust CPU but very weak video card, right?
Yeah.
You can mine Epic.
Right.
If you have a gaming rig that has an early gaming rig that has an okay CPU, but you have this massive video card, you can mine Epic. If you got a more advanced gaming rig, you can mine Epic with CPU and GPU. If you were a card miner before, so you have this mining rig with all these video cards, you can mine Epic. So from a hardware, I just thought it was crazy sexy. From a hardware standpoint, it was about as inclusive as it gets.
Right.
And to me, when Epic talks about its fair lunch, that's one of the things that I like people to consider, is that fair lunch is when you pre-announce and people know, so it's not like a group of insiders just mining stuff, and then difficulty goes up and then they tell the world, that's essentially a pre-mine. That's not a fair lunch. We didn't do that. We pre-announced, and when the ball got rolling, there was a ton of miners hitting the network. The initial hash was robust, and that means that you had CPU miners, GPU miners, all these people, got on, and that again is inclusive. So it's hot tech. It was tech that was ahead of its time, but it was also cleverly implemented. Okay, so I, as a nerd, I was excited. As a marketing guy, I saw potential, and as an economics guy, well, it was worth pennies. I saw, wow, this is so early on, and I thought wow, this has a chance to to displace Monero.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it more, and I thought, well, it has a chance to go way beyond that. and again, I'm talking back when Monero was in the 8th place, not in the 48th place. Okay.
Wow. And to put that, just to put it in perspective for everyone watching, you could go out and buy right now one Monero, or you could buy 150 Epic. And let me just plant that seed while we continue this interview.
You could do an expensive mic drop at this point, but yeah, it's exactly that. And sorry, it's still California time. I'm still caffeinating. Yeah, so all of those things, got me excited about Epic. I started mining Epic and I joined the community. I started spreading the word, telling people, just like what I did with Bitcoin, just like what I did with, with Monero. It's the same thing. It's a word of mouth thing. And this is how communities grow. We have all these cells with unifying factors. So I was telling my nerd friends here, I was telling my, miner friends here. I was telling my, crypto curious friends, and some of them to this day don't get crypto, and they're just now beginning to get crypto thanks to COVID, ironically, and thanks to government's intrusion with centralized digital, bank currency, with CBDC stuff, and Epic, the community was forming nicely. It was an opportunity for anybody who really wanted to step up and make a difference. This is the other thing that I really like, that we don't have this like corporate board and people, nobody gets hired and fired, if you will. People just come in, and you can come in, you can pick up the ball and run with it. Okay. And based on your contribution, for lack of a better word, you acquire a certain amount of gravitas, I guess, or a certain amount of respect within the community, merit. And that's really it. And again, and pretty much devoid of politics. I mean, yeah, of course it's crypto land. Okay. So there's going to be some politics. Crypto has the best freaking trolls, like, of any community except for maybe 4chan. But I mean, we got awesome trolls. Okay. But the community acts like an immune system. There's this community culture. There's all these different people that with their uniqueness combined into this unique organism that has a pretty robust immune system.
Yeah.
So that in itself was also cool, like building the community culture, and not a monolithic culture, but that respectful culture of differences.
Yes.
And again, in the end, like with all things crypto, it's still essentially a majority rule. Okay, because crypto is a majority rule thing, right? There's the 51% attack, or there's the 51, there's the consensus, right?
Right.
There's always the greater consensus. So again, this is not like something where you can please everybody, but the system itself is dynamic enough and flexible enough, and the people are friendly enough and respectful enough of each other to recognize, if there are mechanisms for compensation for imperfection.
Unpack that. Say that again.
So there are mechanisms for the compensation of imperfection, and what I mean by that is, let's say you want Epic, but you don't have money, okay, and you don't have a rig to mine it with, okay, and so that's kind of an imperfection of like your desires versus your means. But what we have is a mechanism. You can come in and you can use like Epic Fund Me. Okay, and become a contributor, and you can do context. You can create content. You can support content. You can be vocal about your support of content, and you can essentially crowdsource funding for yourself for your merit. So we have this great ability for people to earn without being miners, without being developers, without being technically astute, these coders or whatever, and that's part of the egalitarian approach. So while the system is not perfect, there's all these different parts of it that kind of help compensate and create opportunities for people. And ultimately, to me, that's what Epic is. It's not a crypto, it's an opportunity engine. It's an engine for creation of opportunities. And it's not, I got this whole thing for, about Bitcoin, and how, we talk about Bitcoin all the time because, well, again, it's the 900-pound gorilla. Okay. It's the big daddy of them all.
Yep.
And people always inevitably compare us to Bitcoin, and we compare ourselves to Bitcoin, and we we try to be respectable, and we are actually. I think there's a difference where some of the stuff we say could be misconstrued as disrespect, and I'm tremendously respectful of Bitcoin. I'm tremendously respectful of all the cryptos that we benefited from, the shoulders of the giants that we're standing on today. What I will never do, because that would be disingenuous and unfair to the history and to the people who are here with us now, I will not close my eyes at the bullshit and the imperfection of other systems. Okay.
Yep.
So when somebody says, that Bitcoin was never hacked and that Bitcoin is immutable, that's bullshit, because Bitcoin was sort of the granddaddy. They were the pioneer of getting hacked and getting blown up wide open, with a hack in 2010, where they did exactly what Ethereum did later. They just did a rollback fork. The only difference is nobody followed the wrong fork. Well, because that would have been stupid. They followed the right fork. But to say that Bitcoin is immutable is a lie. It's not even disingenuous. It's bullshit. It's an outright lie. And a lot of people today, I think Bitcoin jumped the shark. Okay. I think it became successful, and then it later became a stagnating commodity. It became exactly what it was fighting against. Okay. And today, like Bitcoin bag holders, they're basically just making a lot of noise to remain relevant. And they have this undeniable inertia that they built because, it's $1 trillion plus, juggernaut. But their future depends on their pitch, which is filled with omissions and inaccuracies and just outright lies.
Yeah.
And these omissions and inaccuracies, like saying, "Oh, Bitcoin is fungible," or "Oh, Bitcoin is private," or Bitcoin is, it can be stopped. It's like, it's not fungible. It's about as non-private as you can get. And because of that, holy crap, it can be stopped, and it is being stopped, and accounts are being frozen, and Bitcoin is being tainted. Okay.
Yep.
And when JC in that interview on YouTube was saying, like, well, I'm still looking to buy, tainted Bitcoins at a discount, and nobody's selling it to me. That's because you're a scrub, JC. That's because you don't have enough money to be noticed by people who are selling tainted Bitcoin. If you actually had money, you could buy tainted Bitcoin. Okay. There are markets for that. There are layers in the market. You should check it out. Okay. So that's the difference. Okay. Again, it's an inaccuracy or a lie, and that's what they're building on still.
Yeah.
And, our proposition is honest. Our proposition is just honest. This is what I love as a marketing guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing easier than to sell honest product.
Right.
It's the best job in the world to explain, because I'm not selling. All I'm doing is educating. And people get it. They connect the dots, like Mike was talking about. I don't have to take somebody and lead them by the hand.
Right.
All I have to do is show them. Here's the potential.
I love what he said. He said to people that he runs with or talks to, he's like, you're a successful person because you're open-minded. And I want to share something with you because you are open-minded. And just teeing it up that way is just very nice. I mean, I learned a lot from that, from interviewing him. And I think with I was thinking about, we say, and we have it on our website, that Epic Cash is Bitcoin perfected. And Max and I, we had a private Zoom call with Max Wright to explain Epic Cash and the ecosystem and all of that. And at one point he stopped and he said, hey, if you're open for some feedback, I would lose the Bitcoin perfected because it's offensive. And at the time I was like, okay, duly noted. That's interesting. But then after I thought about it, I'm like, why is it offensive? Because it happens to be true. So why do I have to measure how I articulate something if it's true? And the reason why I believe it is offensive is because these people, a ton of their net worth, and I understand this, is in Bitcoin. So there's confirmation bias all through that ecosystem. They had to invent layer 2 to address the inadequacies of layer 1 of Bitcoin. And so Epic Cash just happened to have the benefit of, a decade's worth of advanced tech. And it was interesting. Todd Lewis said yesterday, if Satoshi were to create Bitcoin in 2019, you tell me the rest of the story. And he said he would have used Mimblewimble.
I'll take credit for that quote, by the way, but
okay,
I'll go with the rest. Yeah, exactly what you said. And look, the thing is, maybe it rubs people the wrong way that we say that, some of us anyway say that Bitcoin, that Epic Cash is Bitcoin perfected. Okay. I tell you this, here's something that maybe it's perfected that's bothering them. Maybe we say it's just Bitcoin, improve the hell out of, or something like that. Okay.
With today's tech.
But what Max says that I like is that Epic Cash is more Bitcoin than BTC.
Yes.
Because it's truer to the original vision. And notice, if you will, the Maxi pitches that at some point, the idea of privacy started to get negative connotation. And this is a purely manufactured thread. As a marketing guy, I kind of look at that with respect. I'm like, oh, you nefarious little bastards.
Yeah.
Clever, very clever. But let's be honest, okay? Let's consider, this is my whole pitch, is honesty and transparency, okay?
Yeah.
Let's remove the shadows, okay? Consider that privacy is one of the tenets of banking today. In fact, banking secrecy is also known as financial privacy and banking discretion or banking safety, right? Safety and privacy get equated in the concept of banking industry.
Yes.
In fact, it's part of the conditional agreement between the banks and the clients, right? Your banking privacy.
That's right.
And this is significant to remember because all the activities between the bank and the client are supposed to remain secure and confidential and private. And there's nothing nefarious about it. This is the freaking foundation. This is the selling point why you put your money in the bank.
100%.
Right? So your neighbor doesn't know how much money you have, and some guy down the street with a gun that will kidnap your family doesn't know how much money you have, and so on. Okay. So how is that nefarious? There's nothing nefarious about it. So banks, in fact, take this to the next level. Banks located in the countries that went above and beyond the other countries to protect the safety, security, privacy, and confidentiality, they command a premium, right, for their services. Swiss banks are still. Why? Because they offer more privacy. So so it has value.
Yeah.
So privacy is not so bad unless you're Bitcoin Max and your bag depends on dissing it. So, and not really a digression, but part of the point is, look, Bitcoin is not private, right? The entire blockchain is visible and searchable. I mean, you can take any Bitcoin address, somebody just transferred you some Bitcoin, take that address, plug it into Google, and there's going to be like 100 services, okay, that allow you to browse that account.
Yeah. Okay.
Blockchain keeps all the info. It keeps the sender info, the receiver address, the time, the amount of the transaction. And the proof in the pudding, okay, people don't do anything for free. There's an industry that spans tens of billions of dollars, okay, that's dedicated to nothing but naming all Bitcoin holders and identifying attribution to their transaction.
Ding, ding, ding.
Think about that. Okay. This is not about you being a criminal for wanting privacy. This is about your information being systematically collected and pimped out. It's being packaged and it's being sold. Yes, some of it is being sold to IRS to catch the bad guys, right? Some of it is being, sold to marketers to like, hey, is this a person of wealth? We're going to pitch him a Rolex next time he opens his, web, etc. So there's companies like Chainalysis, Elliptic, Solidus, Merkle Science, Comply Advantage, CipherTrace, all these dozens of other companies, and it's a growing industry. They're just starting, okay? Huge analytical companies like Palantir, okay, which is like $40+ billion company, okay, also operating in this space. by buying these startups that are already doing this. So Bitcoin information is more valuable than your Facebook profile information.
Yeah.
Okay. All that Epic does is give you a more reasonable expectation of privacy. We're not doing anything nefarious, because in itself, privacy doesn't absolve you of legal responsibility. Privacy is not an invitation to do something illegal, right? I mean, like, like if you have a stick or a brick, okay, it doesn't give you permission to bash people's heads in.
Right. Right.
Okay. So there's this inference that privacy is this nefarious thing, and oh my god, you guys have privacy, therefore it's like, oh, bad, evil, you're doing horrible shit.
Yeah.
No, it's because because their shit is not private, and their bag depends on taking down every competitive advantage other people have and making it dismissive, just nullifying
hand wave.
That's it. Oh yeah, you guys have privacy. Well, privacy is for creeps and pervs, okay, and for criminals. Are you a criminal?
That's their argument.
No, it's curtains on our windows and doors in our homes. That's it. Stronger doors are generally better, right? I mean, the Three Little Pigs taught us a lesson, when it came to that, right? Okay, like the pig that built a house out of stone, was he considered to be a criminal for failing to submit to the big bad wolf?
Right.
Just think about this on like a 5-year-old level, okay, and it's freaking obvious, and all the noise, like these guys like Saylor and Williams and all these guys, like, oh well, it's a regulatory compliance, it's like, and it's not like an unprecedented thing, because people had non-serialized stuff before. People were growing potatoes, apples, and they're making cider and vodka and whatever out of that, okay.
Yeah.
And there are mechanisms for tracking profits, and just because you're growing stuff that's not serialized, it doesn't absolve you of responsibility of compliance. But right. What it does give you, it gives you more control. Mike was talking about Fourth Amendment. Some of the other guys were talking about Fourth Amendment. Is another way of looking at it. Look, you're not a criminal if you are not a criminal.
Are you a criminal if you?
Yeah, I'm a horrible guy. I don't always pick up after my dog. No, I'm just kidding. I always pick up after my dog.
Are you a criminal if you go into an airport bathroom and you close the door to use the restroom because you're just that's privacy that's offered? But should we presume everyone who shuts the door is snorting cocaine? I don't know. Now, what were you saying about Michael Saylor?
Nice. Sorry. So much snow. Yeah. So, and the other thing, we're talking about trust, right?
Yeah.
Privacy is trust. Like every major bank is supposed to be trusted. And banks are the ones that are telling like, oh, crypto is bad. And, they were anyway, until they realized that Bitcoin is like so much more trackable. So now like banks are all for Bitcoin, right. But now they're like trying to, like poo-poo, the privacy stuff, because they realize, no, that's the dangerous stuff for them. But consider this, okay, every single major bank has been accused of financial misconduct, violation of money laundering, and everyone, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, like the ING, every single freaking bank, okay, there's not one bank, okay, on the big list, that hasn't behaved in a naughty manner. And these people are trying to teach us morals. Okay. I just it's funny on so many levels. If it wasn't the legislative power,
let me ask you this. If somebody in government or somewhere took a look at all of our positive attributes, or let's say any coin that has privacy as an attribute, and wanted to shut it down, can you talk to us about the unstoppable nature of those, the Druid, I call them the Druid Babylonian bastards in charge? Could they even do that?
Well, decentralized crypto is impossible to stop, really. I mean, as long as there are a couple of nodes running, the network is alive and transactions can get validated, and the beat goes on.
For the uninitiated, for those of us that don't understand nodes and stuff, can you just educate us a little on?
So the copy of blockchain is a ledger. Okay. Yeah. Every node is a computer. It's like people say, like cloud, what a cloud is, computer cloud, it's somebody else's computer. People are like, oh, well, the data is on the cloud. You mean somebody else has your data? That's good to know. Okay. That's great. So a node is just a computer with a copy of the blockchain.
Okay.
We call that a full node. People
Okay,
run a full node. Okay, so if you load Epic server software, or if you load Bitcoin's, Bitcoin original software, okay, and it takes, with Bitcoin it takes forever because it's like 350 plus gigs. With Epic it's like a couple of gigs, but you synchronize it. In other words, it catches up to all the current transactions, and then it starts transmitting and exchanging data with other computers.
Okay.
And they, between themselves, they make sure that the data integrity stays intact, that nobody, adds a zero to their account. Okay, it keeps and this is what proof of work is, and this is what the concept of network security is, and Todd is much better at unpacking this than I am, but this is the value of the proof of work concept versus proof of stake, is that it's independently constantly being verified.
Okay.
Okay, with proof of stake you have centralization, and you have somebody who will just add a zero, and well, Bob's your uncle. I mean, that's a very trite way of explaining it, but proof of work is much more robust in terms of security.
Interesting.
And because of our multi-algo approach, we're harder to get attacked by the 51%, algo, because you have to dominate all algos and keep up with their switching, which makes things, vastly more complicated and more difficult than in the case of single algo, proof of work systems.
How many nodes do we have?
It varies. I mean, we have thousands, but it's really hard because people come online, come offline. Some people mine at certain times of day. And the other thing to keep in mind is that not every miner is a node. Okay, because some miners are mining to a mining pool. Okay, so you don't have to run a copy of a node on your system. Okay, the Epic GUI wallet, for example, the very old original GUI wallet, relies on remote nodes, so you don't have to. What's good, that's the cool thing about it, you don't need to install server software or anything else. You just run the GUI node, the GUI wallet, and it pulls the node information from another node. So it doesn't help the network, but it's very easy and fast to set up.
Got it.
Okay.
Now
and the miners, sorry, real quick, and the miners who are mining to a central node, they're helping the proof of work, but they're not necessarily decentralizing the network, because that node is the point of weakness. The mining pool IP address is so the network doesn't see these miners as independent, but the actual pool node is the one that kind of represents them,
I see.
in the Congress of blockchain, if you will. Okay, so it's kind of like that. So it's like, so when you talk about nodes and miners, they're different things. And we have a lot of users who are not miners, who are just keeping Epic on Vite, for example, and they're transacting through Vite. So they're not decentralizing the network, but what they're doing is they're not decentralizing the physical network, they're decentralizing the financial network. So there are layers. Okay.
Check it out.
Yeah, we should definitely check it out. So that's kind of the thing with nodes. And the more nodes you have, the more decentralization that you have. And what's sexy about Epic is when we go to mobile mining, because our blockchain is so light, it allows us to be able to store full node on the network. You'll be able to actually have a mobile phone maintaining a full node, creating that extra point of safety for Epic. And if some local government decides to shut Epic down, it's unstoppable, because it's being transmitted between all these different systems, and you just can't coordinate a global shutdown of the entire network.
And that's all on layer one, right?
Absolutely.
Do we have a layer two? Because this guy says that we should check it out.
Yeah, we don't really have a layer two. We kind of played around with ideas, like doing some stuff.
Tacos?
I think that's like a chalupa or something. I mean, this is the guy that was eating a microwave burrito in the middle of the interview, as I recall. Yeah. So
he was so condescending. They were all so condescending. You and Max were just like,
I was smiling the whole time, because I just, I see the potential in stuff like this, where people just angrily display their agenda. I wouldn't say they're ignorance, because they're not ignorant. It was a very deliberate act of misdirection on their behalf.
Upon further research, like all of them were making their livings like with layer two.
JC is, his living is off of a payment system, that's layer that's Lightning Network driven, and Dustin is some minor code contributor to one of the Lightning Network things. So they're experts, were shills. But again, that's to be expected. Okay, if your livelihood depended on this, and they're maximalists, they're not diversified, they're balls. I'm sorry, they're deep into it. Okay, so people are expected to protect their livelihoods. I'm sorry, man. I don't want a video of you shooting a frothy beverage out of your nostrils, but I'm just drinking coffee here, folks. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So this is kind of the whole thing on that, and to me, again, Epic, we go back to the 3 T's, and the team in itself, I mean, Max is brilliant, Todd is brilliant, Islo, everybody, all these wonderful people, so enthusiastic. Everybody brings something unique to the table. This is the other thing that I love, because to me in marketing, the weak spot in marketing, the Achilles heel in marketing was always that stupid question when people say like, well, what is your target demographic? Who are you targeting? Who are you laser targeting? Okay, and to me that was just the most counterintuitive thing. Is like, what do you mean? Like, when you're asking that, what you're basically saying is, who are we leaving behind? Who are we excluding? Right? To me, like, look, we're not even targeting people with money. We're targeting people with need.
Yeah.
We're not even targeting. We're presenting an opportunity.
We're targeting people who may get hungry.
Yeah. Today. We are presenting an opportunity to whoever wants it. We're not a extreme left token. We're not an extreme right token. We're not a token. We're a coin. And by the way, it's like it's a layer 1 thing, right? So we're not a token. And we are a cool original implementation.
Yeah. You just triggered something in me. Does that mean that when a BTC goes to layer 2, that becomes a token instead of a coin, right?
Right. It goes off the blockchain. It goes to
so it's just it's tokenized. An IOU. It's tokenized.
Oh boy, yeah. I'll save that one for Max to unpack. Okay, because there's this whole other thing that BTC macro, Maxie's talk about how Bitcoin is immune to rehypothecation, and there's a fixed supply. And by the way, there is a fixed supply. Except there's this whole pile of Bitcoin that's about to get unleashed on the market thanks to the McGox saga coming to an end, and that's kind of driving the pricing down. So it's still subject to supply. It's fixed supply, but there's a nuance. Okay, like in that filthy old joke. There's a nuance, and so that's something else. That's something else that people need to consider. But one of the T's I kind of want to expand on the 3 T's. The tech, as we talked about, we kind of covered the tech and the timing. Of course, don't really need to say much about the timing. Everybody's like sees what the stated inflation and what the real inflation is, and you see all these other countries. And we got to remember, like, Epic is not an American project. It's not even a North American project. It's a global project. So when we're sitting here in relative comfort and safety of our homes, we got to realize there's places on earth, Turkey just, the Turkish lira just went from 9 to $1 to 13 to $1 overnight.
Say that again.
I'm talking about inflation here. Okay. The Turkish lira, the currency of Turkey, was exchanging 9 lira to $1, like 8 point something. Okay. And overnight it went to like 13. Okay. Apple closed their stores because they couldn't conduct business because, well, you don't just do a 20% sale like that out of the goodness of your heart. So they disabled the shopping cart on the Apple, in Turkey, because of currency fluctuations. So we talked about the timing. I mean, this is an example of the kind of timing we're living. Look at Argentina, look at Venezuela, and well, oh, did I just freeze? Oh no, I thought I froze for a second.
Froze for a sec, but
yeah, I turned my miner off. Okay, I'm losing money here. I'm not mining while I'm talking to you. So
sorry.
No problem. No, it's well worth it. But but I want to expand on the team. The team is the community.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not Max. It's not you. It's not
Yep.
Mike. It's not Islo. It's not Todd. It's the whole community.
Yeah.
And that's mind blowing and humbling. And we have people all over the world.
Right.
When I was mapping the nodes and I was looking at like where do we have presence, and I see we have people in New Zealand, we have people in South Africa, we have people in West Africa, we have people all over Europe, we have people in some really, really exotic corners of Russia, like way out in the boonies in like Siberia and like way out there. We have people, Alaska, we have people all over Central America, South America, everywhere.
It's amazing.
101 country.
Whoa.
Okay? It's humbling, right? It's cool. It's like,
so I mean, are we would you classify us still as an undiscovered coin?
we are, because if you
Absolutely.
no, because look, you consider this, okay? There are 140 million people that have Bitcoin in their portfolio in one form or another.
Wow.
Okay, we're nowhere near that. But
No.
what's cool about it is we're growing. Whereas Bitcoin, as I said before, and this is part of and I'd love to hear a sensible argument against that, because Bitcoin, all I'm hearing is like, well, it's a hedge against inflation. Not the best one, but sure, undeniably. It's like, if you compare everything to dog shit, it's like, it looks better, right? So, but with Epic, if you use the same argument that Bitcoin maxis use against other commodities, to me, Bitcoin basically reached a level of a mature commodity. So Epic has not.
I just want to show this. I did the Monero example. You could buy one Monero or 150 Epic Cash, or you could buy one Bitcoin or almost 21,000 Epic Cash. And when you think about everything that yoga has educated us on today, and you go watch, please go watch the Todd Lewis interview on our tech. And stick around for Max at 2:00. When you look, when you combine it all and maybe just binge watch the people in the community like yoga, just think about that. What would it take? What kind of financial infusion in the Bitcoin blockchain would it take for it to go from its current price to 2x? Another $1 trillion? Is that what it's going to take? And then you think about us and say, if you took that same dollar, and you put it in our 30 million market cap, does it have a better chance of not only 2xing but 10xing?
Right. And again, when you listen to the guys, who are like polished pros, okay, you listen to like Pompiano, for example, very, very polished pitch, okay, Jason Williams, the going anabolic guy, and the other guys, and they talk about they warn about CBDCs. By the way, this is the other little new wrinkle that they like to unpack, and they warn about the CBDCs and the evils of CBDCs, because they say that CBDCs are surveillable, that it's the ultimate tool of surveillance and censorship and manipulation.
Yeah,
like Bitcoin. That's the huge white elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's like, I'm not trolling. I'm asking an honest question. And in his book on page 117, okay, the book that I've read many times, Todd is going to whip it out. Excuse me while I whip this out. Boom, right there. Okay. On page 117, I believe, or 114, Jason talks about how he admits that Bitcoin is not fungible. I mean, Antonopoulos admits that Bitcoin is not fungible.
Page 117, my friend.
Yeah.
Fungible. Yeah.
So again, I'm not trolling and I'm not bullshitting. I'm calling people out on their bullshit,
using their own words.
Using their own words. So, and again, I understand that their livelihood depends on it.
Yeah,
I understand the place they're coming from, but at the same time, if their only answer to us is to try to talk louder than us, it serves us better in the long run. So that's kind of my whole thing.
After that interview, I don't know if you noticed, but we went on almost a 10x run. I think that interview did more for Epic Cash, because I will tell you, anyone looking, anyone, bring it. You want to go up against our memers? We have the best memers on the planet.
Let's not reduce this. Oh my God, let's not reduce this to the meme war. But yeah,
we are really good.
yeah, that's too true, too true.
Check it out.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's kind of all about me and how I see the project. I'm just really excited to be where we are. I'm excited that Epic is not just a product, but it's also a base layer of this whole ecosystem, of the Epicenter ecosystem. And we have ECR that's coming on. We're going to do an air grab. We're going to have EUSD, our stable, our crypto dollar. And we're going to have all these other, we're going to have ECK, and Mac can unpack more on that, but we're going to have more fun stuff for miners to do. And we're going to take some of the stuff that some other cryptos did and they blew it, and we're going to do it right. Okay. And for those people that invested in the hardware of the projects that did it wrong, we'll have an opportunity to recapture a lot of that value. And to the holders of ECR, to the participants on the Epic ecosystem, there'll be mechanisms to benefit them. There'll be profits driven into the hands of the holders of ECR, into the hands of holders of Epic. There's the incentive has to be there, the economic incentive. And because Epic, and I kind of want to end on that, at least my long rant, to me, Epic is truly that unconfiscatable form of private property. And it's a really powerful concept. And it's not something like you have a chunk of gold that you're hidden well, and because of that, it's unconfiscatable. It's more because it's not transportable. But what you have having Epic is something that is truly unconfiscatable, that is at the same time accessible to you anywhere in the world without anybody knowing about it, and without being able to stop you or judge you or comment on it or whatever. What's yours is yours. And just like with our community, you be the best you that you can be. Okay. And the power of the community is what drives the mass adoption, is what drives the use cases, is what drives the price ultimately. But that's not, the price is a byproduct of mass adoption. The price is not the goal. The goal is mass adoption. The goal is to evolve beyond the use of fiat and to be able to get physical goods and services without using fiat bridges. Okay. And to interconnect and bridge into other cryptos, and through all of that, to aggregate small amounts of profit sharing into the hands of Epic holders. So what you would have would be almost like a hidden little spring, if you will, okay, that's just constantly shooting value. It's constantly creating value. So you're staying ahead of the inflation. And again, it doesn't absolve you of, paying taxes, not paying taxes. I'm not going to get into that argument. Okay. It doesn't absolve you of anything illegal in your local jurisdiction. But what it does give you, just like the Fourth Amendment, it gives you, it protects the rights of normal people. Okay. Or abnormal people, but it protects your rights. And it puts the decision back on you. It puts a responsibility back on you. Nothing absolves you of responsibility of what you do in this world. Okay. But what Epic gives you is opportunities.
And I would like to end on this before thanking you. We have a snapshot on December 25th at noon, or whenever that block, whatever the details are, but December 25th is the day. And you are going to get a 1-for-1 match of ECR to your Epic Cash. And that may not seem like much now, but trust me, trust Yoga, as this ecosystem develops further and we can better articulate the mechanisms of the bank of you're going to need ECR. So the time to acquire Epic Cash could not be better between now and the end of the year. And candidly, it's about 40% off its recent run up, and we're still 700% better than the top 15, the average of the top 15 blue chip coins.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Uncle. Just
Yes.
one thing to all the Bitcoin maxis and to anybody hoarding Bitcoin. If you look at Enrique's chart and if you kind of reflect on what Uncle just said, even if you love Bitcoin, investing in Epic will allow you to ultimately buy more Bitcoin.
Very good. Very good. So just use their argument that they used for talking to people with gold, right? You
1-2%. Yeah, diversify. I mean, Sailor's pitch is great.
Yeah,
Jason's pitch is great. It's a great pitch. It's just that everywhere, if you substitute the word Epic Cash everywhere they use the word Bitcoin, your pitch is going to be
beautiful,
a better and more honest.
It'll be true
pitch.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. We're going to keep it to an hour. It's 1 o'clock. And I don't know about, well, I you're 3 hours behind, but I'm getting kind of hungry and I know the turkey's about ready. So I'm going to get a little bite to eat before coming back in an hour with Max. But Yoga, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, folks.
This
My pleasure, Uncle. Thank you for hosting. You're awesome.
Everybody in the chat, happy Thanksgiving. Really appreciate you. We had a nice number of people watching today, Yoga, on Thanksgiving. That's kind of,
yeah.
awesome.
Like I said, the community constantly humbles me. I mean, to me, it's like, thank you, folks. I mean, we have wonderful, wonderful people in the community, and the community is growing. So it's really